Welcome. Today we want to talk about how to execute a career pivot. Now, recently we've talked about when is the right time to
Exactly.
consider a career pivot, but there are many steps involved and it's a big decision. So today we want to talk about how to do it.
Yeah. So the first point that we really want to highlight is you need to take inventory of your professional skills, experience, and expertise. You need to know what you're bringing to the
Yeah, your
table, right?
brand,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty much.
Mhm.
And if you've been in a role for a while, you may not have thought about this.
Right.
You might have your annual review. You might, maybe have applied for a couple of internal roles, but you may have never had to really sit down and look at, like, who am I? What do I
Yeah.
bring?
Yes. And I also think that sometimes when you are working internally, you may have done like a stretch assignment. You may have tried some things on when you were there and
Yeah,
grew a skill set
yeah.
that maybe you didn't, you know,
Document.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
you want to make sure that you do that. The next one is to review your professional priorities. What do you want and need to get out of your
So
work?
part of this will be directed by that first conversation of like, why do I want to leave my current role?
Right.
Understanding what your priorities are. Maybe they've shifted. We talked earlier about maybe you're really looking for something that's more mission oriented.
Right.
Maybe you want something flexible now.
Yep.
Maybe you're looking for more money. But identifying those kind of top two or three priorities of what you want to get out of this work is essential. So kind of the first step is, what do I bring to the organization?
Right.
What's my brand? And now what do I want to get from that role?
Right.
Is the second
And
piece.
then you want to explore new career ideas and options by doing research both online. So there is some value to the online piece, but really you're going to gather your best data from real people, having conversations with people that are doing work that is interesting to you or you're curious about.
This is where they're going to spend most of their time.
Right.
Right? It doesn't take long to kind of take those inventories, but here you've got to allow yourself weeks or maybe a couple of months, depending on, how many different ideas you have. But when you're doing brainstorming and the
Right.
whole rule is you just put everything down on paper,
Right.
this is a good time to do that. Think about all of the jobs that interest you.
Right.
I might see Kelly on the sidelines and find out what she's doing and think, wow, this is like I think that's a cool opportunity. I'd like to
Yes.
explore it. You might have read about something. Maybe you know about it from a client or a former colleague. But take the time to do a little bit of online research, as Kelly said, just to get some of the basics, but then reach out to people, reach out to the people that you see every day,
Yep.
and through them to other people.
A really interesting suggestion here is to have conversations with your adult children, right? And your
Definitely.
adult
Yeah.
children's friends and your nieces and your nephews that are out there, because there have been so many jobs, positions, different experiences and opportunities that are out there that are emerging in real time, and they are a great population to tap into to gather some data for yourself and just hear about what is happening and maybe you have an affinity
Great.
for.
Another great source is former colleagues that have maybe left your organization, but also former classmates or fellow alum from your either
Right.
undergrad or graduate program. They have a great loyalty. They want to help
Mhm.
people. You could do something simple on LinkedIn and just go to see, I want to work at this organization. Go to that organization's LinkedIn page and type in your alma mater and see how many people work there.
Yep.
And maybe reach out to one of them for some ideas on really learning more about the company, maybe about the role, and then maybe later using them as a networking connection too.
Yeah. So we have a freebie that we call, it's a strategy that we teach called Explore and Assess. And we have an Explore and Assess guide. So we'll make
Yeah.
sure that we pop that into the chat. It's something that we use with our career relaunchers on a regular
Yeah.
basis, but it really is applicable to what we're talking about here for you who are thinking about a pivot.
So another little couple thoughts, kind of nuance, and they're probably included in that freebie. But remember that these explore and assess calls are not networking calls. You're not
No.
looking for a job. You're
And
really
not
just
an informational interview either, because
no.
people use that term a lot
It's
and
different.
it's really confusing because this is just data gathering. right?
Exactly. So we always say if you're in the middle of having this explore and assess conversation, you're asking questions, trying to learn more about a role or an organization, and it starts pivoting towards you.
Yep.
To pivot it right back and say something like, I'm thrilled that you're interested in learning more about me. Right now, I'm just gathering data. I'm really secure in my current role. I'm looking at future options, but I would love to circle back with you in a couple of months, once I've become really clear on what I'm looking to do some more deeper networking then.
Right. And that's why this next step is so important. And that's the assess piece of this strategy.
Yeah.
And it's, do my skills and expertise transfer well to this new field or role? Am I a good fit? Or does this new role suit my priorities? You want to vet it against
Yeah.
those priorities that you've established earlier. Is it a good fit for me? Do you want to say
One thing to be cautious about here is that women in particular will take themselves out of the running for something if they don't meet all the criteria. So, couple of things. First of all, you may, as part of your online exploration, look at job descriptions to say, I'm really interested in becoming a program manager. What does that entail?
Right.
And you look at a couple of job descriptions and you say, well, I don't meet any of these criteria, so forget it, or I don't meet most of them. In general, if you are aligned with half of what this person you're talking to says you need to have, half of what you see online, then you're within striking distance. Yes. Don't limit yourself.
75%, not 85%, not 95%, half. Yeah.
So that's kind of a good gauge. And that assessment piece is so important because very often we take a job because we can get it.
Yep.
And this is a mindset shift, really.
Absolutely.
We want you thinking about going after jobs because they suit you.
Yeah.
And if you're making the time to make a career pivot, that means something has changed. Make sure you put the time in to really think it through so that it's a good and successful pivot.
Yes. Okay, so once all of that is done, once you've done your exploring and assessing, once you have really gotten yourself to the point where you're like, I know who my audience is, that's when you start to network, right? And you're going to find human connections who can get you in front of team leaders, recruiters, or hiring managers. You want to avoid the ATS because, go ahead and say your little spiel.
Maybe a 20% chance if you have a fairly conventional resume of getting an interview by applying online. Now, that doesn't mean you might not combine applying online with having a personal connection, try to advance you through the process.
Right.
But if you're spending a lot of time just applying online, and we have a number of videos on this particular topic, you're wasting your time.
Yes. So there you have it, how to execute your career pivot. If you liked what you heard today, you can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out new content every Monday. If you want to learn more about us and our programming, you can visit us at www.preparetolaunchu.com. Thanks.